Hello, everybody. I'm Don Counts, and we're in Nashville, Tennessee, and I have Ronnie Carter to my left and Larry Taft to my right. Ronnie, tell us who we have today.
We have Bill Marbet, a guy that's known all over, not just the state of Tennessee, but known all over the country for all the things he's done involved with sports. But we're going to share a lot of the things. And Bill, start us out by tell us where you come from and the area of Lewis County.
Come from Hohenwald, Tennessee, in Lewis County. Grew up there until I went off to college. Played for legendary John Tucker and Bud West, so that was pretty extreme that I went through there. Met my wife there of 55 years, so played football and basketball. I played basketball because Joanne, my wife, was on the basketball team, and I didn't want anybody to ride the bus with her but me, so that's why I played basketball. But that's pretty much the Lewis County Hohenwald Panthers.
Right after Lewis County, you did something that kids today don't get to do. You went to postgraduate school.
I did. Went
play
to
football.
Had
How that was like.
It was a prep, called prep schools. It was a 1-year extension of your high school career, I guess you would say. But we played at Columbia Military Academy, and it was part of the recruiting process. I had been recruited by a few schools to play football, but I wound up going there. Brud Spickert was the coach. Played Castle Heights, Baylor, McCallie, Georgia Military Institute, and there's some others at TMI. Played against Bobby Majors, who went on to stardom at the University of Tennessee, and one that I do remember because he was obviously, when I tell you who it is, was an amazing player, and he left his footprints literally on most of us on that. John Hanna that went to school at Baylor and then went to Alabama, and I've read where he was maybe one of the best offensive linemen ever in the NFL. Yeah. So just that.
Illustrated did a cover article on him as the best offensive lineman in pro football.
Well, he can hit really hard. I can. It's been a long time, but I can remember that.
You can remember that from the old days of the league you're talking about.
Yes. He was an outstanding player then. But from there, as far as a playing career, I went from Columbia Military Academy to Middle Tennessee State. Played there under Coach Murphy. Bubba Murphy was he was old school, just a great individual, and just was blessed to be around him. But he retired after my freshman year and became the athletic director, and then we had Don Foose for a short period of time and Bill Peck. So I went through several football coaches while at Middle, but that was my playing career.
And then when you finished college and got through and everything, how do you get started? And how do you get started just in life?
Long story, long story. Multiple jobs, but we had a family friend that was in the banking business in Columbia. So I never interviewed for a job. It was just understood that when I got my degree, that I would come back to Columbia or come to Columbia and go to work in the bank. Bill Marbet and a coat and tie every day and being inside just didn't work. So after 2 or 3 years, I left there, went back to Hohenwald and I made $480 a month and had a wife and my oldest son was on the way. So I'd get the boys. We hauled hay. We picked up scrap iron. We did anything we could to make it. But love, I've never wanted to be away from sports, and so to be able to get back with that was the start of the journey.
And how did you get back with sports?
Officiating football. So in 1971, Deason Lovelace came by. I'd moved to Columbia and started my own tire business in Columbia because that was one of my summer jobs. How I got into the tire business. But so I had a friend of mine. Then we started Tennessee Tire in Columbia, and Deason came by one day and he said, "Boy, I'm going to wherever, Centerville, and we're going to officiate a ball game." I said, "I don't know anything about officiating, but it doesn't matter. You come in with me." So, in 1971 was the first time I officiated any, and he put me on the field. He said, "You played college ball. You got to know what's going on." I didn't know a rule one hardly, but that was the start, and it all goes back to relationships, and that's what I was thinking, that the relationships you have are amazing.
Did you have any idea back then that you'd become a lifer?
Oh no! I looked for that $12.50 check. That was life to me, and most of the time, Kenny Pack and I talk about this quite often, that you get $12.50 to officiate a ball game, and if you go very far, you're probably out of money by the time you get back buying refreshments on the way home. So. You didn't take much home to the wife.
And are you still involved in officiating now, a few years later?
Well, I think this is 54 years later. I'm still involved with the Central Tennessee Football Officials Association, and Kenny Pack and he's let me help him get through that. But still a supervisor and trainer of officials after all this time, and it's something that when it gets in your blood, it doesn't go away.
Yep. Okay, it's just unbelievable the impact it has on you in terms of the rest of your life.
Well, and people ask why you do it, and of course I love the game of football, and I love the challenge of working with. I always liked getting the guys that were the hard guys to sideline guys, and I always enjoyed dealing with those. If you just listen, you'll be able to get through the game without too much trouble, I guess would be the way to put it. But the biggest thing that I got out of when I was on the field officiating, we always had a crew. Bill Malone was my referee. And he was the referee, I was the crew chief, and I'd call and get all the guys together, and we had a crew that we worked with every week, and we had an old van. Well, we used it in summer ball too, but we had an old van that we would get insurance for it in like April for the baseball season, when boys, Jim and Mike and Lee we'd go all over the southeast chasing them, and then in the fall we'd all hop in we called it the Brick. It's an old red van that I don't think we ever cleaned it up or anything out of it, but it was just that experience of going and coming with a special group guys that you kind of, I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but you kind of feel like you go to battle with them, and you know that I've got their back, and they certainly have my back.
And you did, and the officiating career just lasts, and it's still going on today. You know, you did is move from being a first-year official to a grade official, and now supervising people that are getting in officiating all over.
Recruiting and educating and teaching the officials that we have now.
And then somewhere along the line, you started fooling with dirt on baseball field.
Well, like a lot of
Share how that all got started.
well, two boys playing baseball, and dads had to work on the field. And when we first started doing that, I got recruited. Come help us. We're going to mow, or we got to. One of the first things we did was had to reset first base. We had no clue that it went to the back corner. Everybody thought it went to the center of the base. And we didn't want to read the rule book to find out the real way. But from there, it something clicked, and the game of baseball is that side of the field side of it just really fascinated me, that's 60 feet in Little League to the back corner of first, it's to the center of the bases, then it's the center of second base, and just how all of the dimensions and then you get into, I know this is where you wanted me to go, the dirt part of it. Right. And we would go from field. We went from the Little League, and then Hollis Mullins and I this became our hobby. He worked for Bell South at the time, and I mean, two guys that had kind of far different careers than fooling with dirt, but our boys would go to tournaments, and as you well know, and Caroline well knows that how many tournaments we went to, and just to seeing the differences it was just intriguing to me to find out. Like Larry, you said that was, I got a lot of laughs out of that. The scientific side of it and how adapted that, and then when we started learning that there's all soils are different, and what are the common ground that would make an infield hold together well. We kind of figured that, and so that was the mad scientist part that you were talking about, Larry. And then the one that really got to laugh was the P.T. Barnum that nobody believed what I was going to do but me. So, but it's just been a great journey, and blessed all the people. Just like officiating, it's about relationships, and if you don't, you have to have the relationships for anybody to succeed, I think, but then with that relationship, the passion to see it through, and it's not all time. Every time, it's not all easy.
You told me a story once about you were looking for a particular mixture or compound of dirt or whatever. I'm not sure, but the agronomy part of it. But I know that you were searching for a specific soil because you needed to be, and you wound up, as I recall, being in North Alabama somewhere and was at a convenience store, and you saw the dirt on a dump truck. Went over and got some of it, and
well, I asked that truck driver first. If you've ever dealt with a truck driver, you don't just. But that's true. I earlier in the day had passed a building site, and this red dirt they were putting it in a building site and packing it in, and it was it held together, and they had to have certain parameters that I learned from those people after. But so I got that dirt, and then because I didn't ask too many questions, but I started following dump trucks where I mean, that's like a dog chasing a truck, but I would follow them to the pit. Got to know the guy that owned it and operated the pit, and then I did the mad scientist part that you were talking about, and found out the sand, silt, and clay, and then there's other parts of the sand particles have to be a certain gradation. So found out that was a really, really good mix that's not found everywhere in the country. And we've been there since 2002, I think. So still hauling dirt out of the same location.
And somewhere in North Alabama?
And I'm not going to give this. Yes, it's in the Huntsville area. But I knew that the type soil that I was looking for was typically around rivers. There's a company in Camden that's done infield mixes forever. But I've been from East Tennessee, followed the river all the way around to Paducah.
And logic would tell people that was helped you do things for Columbia and for Hohenwald, but then somehow it keeps on moving up and you start working with everybody in regard to fields. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, this Hollis Mullins, we hosted, Columbia State historically has had one of the better fields around at that time, and did a lot of tournaments. The junior colleges would come, and the high school, Columbia Central High School, played at Columbia State. So when people would come in, and we were the grounds crew, we'd repair the mounds and plates, and literally people would say, I wanted my mound like Columbia State's, and would you come do it? So word of mouth, and it just one led to another, and knocked on a lot of doors. Dave Nasipany with the sounds was a big help. He was really good. So, and there's not a lot of people that want to share stories about how they do their job, especially groundskeepers. They just most people take it for granted that the field's going to be good for the sounds. But that was one way, and then those guys helped me get into spring training sites. And so again, it's just relationships and word of mouth, and that I've been truly blessed.
Well, and so you mentioned all of that level. Talk about what it created with you with the Southeastern Conference.
Well, again, when they moved from Columbus, Georgia to Hoover, Alabama, I had a friend of mine that was in the steel business in Birmingham, and one of the things, he like me, he was kind of a nut that loved baseball and wanted to stay in it, but he had a very successful steel business. And he was part of the group that went to Mr. Kramer to move the SEC tournament to Hoover. And the first year they had down there, they just had the grounds crew, and they were trying to, like 3 or 4 guys trying to keep up the fields. And my friend, he and Mr. Kramer were tight. He said, you need to get this guy to help you maintain these fields. So just dumb, right place, right time. And so we started there, and the next year I had 4 or 5 guys that helped us with the grounds crew. So we had a grounds crew of seven or eight. Long story short, that was in 1998. This past, in 2025, we had our grounds crew is up to, we have over 40 people that's on the grounds crew. They're not all there at the same time, but but everybody has a particular job, and we flip the field in a very timely manner that makes the SEC guys happy, so they can keep the TV on.
And you've now been doing the Southeastern Conference how many years?
From 98 till this year, so 26, 27 years, whatever that is.
And logic would tell you don't really need anything else until all of a sudden TSSAA decides to have Spring Fling.
And move that has moved around a little bit, but we helped, thanks to you and some others that so now we have a grounds crew at every site helping the Tennessee TSSAA to make sure their fields are maintained and as best as that they can be.
So all you need to make sure that doesn't happen is that the rest of the 50 states decide to contact you to get them to.
Yeah, I believe we might run a little thin if we do that.
From a business perspective, your company just grew phenomenal. And from the time you first started Southern Athletic Fields to you had representatives in 12 states, it just seemed like overnight. How did you keep from growing too fast?
Well, the best thing that I was able to do, again, relationships. One of my dear friends and one of my former players had gone and played at the University of Memphis and got his accounting degree, Jason Lovell. And I hadn't done a lot of smart things, but that's the smartest thing I've done is to get someone. Jason handled the financial side of it and to make sure that our growth wasn't too fast. and so that's, to answer your question, just to have that foundation that we got to be careful that not to do. He didn't let me do too many dumb things, I guess is what.
So obviously you had so many things going, you didn't have time to do anything else. And then the next thing you do, you start Marbet's Mules. Would you give a little background of that?
The Columbia Mules, but I guess when my son was had some friends there that all of our boys were gotten through high school and were playing college ball, junior college or 4-year. They needed a place to play in the summer, and there wasn't leagues like they are now. So we founded, I guess, the Columbia Mules, and we had some really great people that would help us. One of them being Caroline Carter was a unbelievable individual that no matter where we went, we always try to be close. We'd ride in separate vehicles, but she'd have a load, I'd have a load of guys, and we've been from the Gulf to all over the state of Tennessee. So, but just for those guys, just for the opportunity for those guys to have a place to play.
Keep playing ball, and then that spreads all over.
Well, and that spreads, but also it gave, selfishly, it gave somebody else. When we got to a site, I'd always find the groundskeeper in the shed and see what kind of material is used. So that was also a sales trip for us at the time. So
I'll take advantage of this opportunity. Tell one, because it gets back to individuals. You tell one quick story about Dirty Steve and the kids you had that played for our son, didn't play for our son, but became the manager, and the next thing that happens to it.
Dirty Steve was the manager for the Jackson Christian baseball team, and when we had the tournament in Spring Fling starts, and we go to Chattanooga, and we're out. By the way, that was really a hard thing to get ready because they'd left that alone, and that brings back a few memories. To get it in shape, it was a challenge. But Jim Carter comes out and said, "I have someone I want you to meet." Said this guy, he loves working on the fields, and so he comes and introduces to Steve Hamilton, and he said, "We call him Dirty Steve." Well, he said, "This is what I want." Dirty Steve said, "This is what I want to do when I get out of school." So he worked for a year or two around Jackson, and then we had an agreement with the Birmingham Barons at the time to do their groundskeeping, and I hired Steve Hamilton, Dirty Steve, to go down there and he wanted to get into professional baseball. So he did that and became the head groundskeeper for the Barons. And then he got big time. He and a buddy of his went to Arizona, and he's now groundskeeper for the San Francisco Giants at spring training site.
All starting with the guy that got cut from the high school baseball team when he was a freshman, and literally then took advantage of opportunities that presented himself, and here comes everything.
And had a love for the game and wanted to be a part of the game, and found a way to be a part of the game to this day.
Yes.
Great story. One of the things that you've done, I mean, you're really modest, but one of the things you've done is you've had a career that business and professional, whatever, that people have noticed. I mean, you obviously went to the TSSAA Hall of Fame. You've been the TSSAA Bridges official in here. Baseball Coaches Association has recognized you. Middle Tennessee State, your alma mater, has had different departments recognize you, from the athletic department to business and whatever. How rewarding is that in terms of just being who you are and taking all these awards?
Well, that's a hard thing to answer. There's so many people that affect your life. So for it to be me to accept an individual award, that I'm really not comfortable doing that, and because I didn't do that by myself. I'm not here because anything special I did. Is because I know this man right here, and I've known you forever, but it's I keep going back to it's relationships, and it means the world to me. That I know you guys, and I can say that you're my friend. But for me, it's very humbling. I'll put it that way. It's very humbling.
Then it takes you and gets you involved with TSSAA at the highest level, and you're now part of the Coaches Association. Give a little background to that, what you do with the Coaches Association now. Well,
that's one more time. That shows you how not smart I am when people come and say,
"Need some help."
But when Ronnie Carter and Jim Cartwright, and I think John Olive was in on that, when they come to you and say, "We need you to take over the Coach Association." Well, that was 2004, and this was in a time when we were really trying to build things and going in a lot of direction. And I don't know if you remember, but I said, "I don't have time for this."
And I remember well.
So, but knowing all along I wanted to go say no to that group. So, and I did trick John Olive, and he said, "If you'll take this over, I'll stay as long as you do." Well, I've tricked him, because it's been 20-something years since I took over the Coaches Association. But that's been a real joy, and to offer what the TACA can do for the coaches. Excuse me. It's been great.
And you've done your work with every phase of athletics, and now work with the Coaches Association, on the board of TSSAA, and all kinds of things. All of it enjoyable, right?
Love it. Every day is a unbelievable day.
Yep.
Just to think that you have an opportunity to make it better for someone else. That's what it's about.
But not.
Okay. Bill Marbet, thank you very much. Ronnie Carter, Larry Taft, we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.